Okay guys, let's see what's going on in the world of lost women. This person's apparently a coach. Let's see what she's got, what wisdom she's got for humanity.
Men are losing their mind over a recent video that I made explaining how you leaving a good guy doesn't make you a bad person. Your spouse doesn't have to be abusive in order for your feelings of wanting to leave to be valid. There are dozens of reasons why marriages fall apart, and a lot of them have nothing to do with somebody being a bad person. Here.
And that's, there's a little bit of sanity in this, isn't there? So basically go on to say a number of things that make your partner a bad person. Is one of the comments. What she's saying is, once the fad's worn off for different reasons, leave the marriage. The problem with this is, I don't think in modern day culture marriage works, does it? It's the pinnacle of a relationship, but the way society, Western society is set up now, it doesn't work. One of the guys says in a comment, to translate, don't stay with a boring guy who gave you everything. Go with the wild, broke and toxic one who will give you all the depression needed. Well, the response to that comment is women like toxicity. And what happens is they'll marry a man that's turning them on at the time, and then by way and nature of the matrix of a marriage, the man digs his heels in to try and keep the thing on track. He loses his alpha primary attributes and becomes just a normal good guy, and she's going to get bored with that. Okay, so then they go out and onto the carousel and get pumped and dumped, and to be quite frank, that's female nature. They love lots of different men. That doesn't make it right. The Bible warns about where all that ends up. But let's see what she's got.
Here are some examples. Financial problems, growing apart, communication.
Is a financial problem a reason to me leave the marriage? Growing apart, possibly. Communication issues.
Addiction, too much arguing, lack of emotional or physical intimacy. One spouse just isn't carrying their weight in the marriage. Maybe you married too young or for the wrong reasons. Opposing values or lack of shared interests. Or maybe you just live like platonic roommates. Those are all very common reasons for divorce. And it doesn't make you or your spouse a bad person.
They're very common reasons for divorce, but are they legitimate reasons under the fact that marriage is the pinnacle, the absolute pinnacle of relationships? Okay, here's another one from this woman.
What is something that you tolerated in your marriage that you know you will never tolerate in another relationship? I asked this question to my support group.
Okay, so a marriage is a relationship, but she's talking to people that have left their marriage. Some of the comments are silent treatment. You hear that a lot. Weaponized incompetence, lack of being a priority. Another one, the silent treatment, lack of enthusiasm for happiness. This is the traps that men can fall into. This is the advice women give against that.
And here are some of the things that they said. Gaslighting, lack of accountability, the silent treatment, being taken advantage of and then being treated like I'm nothing, not being prioritized, being yelled at, someone who is condescending or belittling, lying.
One of my questions about being yelled at, what would cause a bloke to get to a point where he's yelling at a woman? In a lot of the cases, it's antagonism.
Cheating, disrespect in all forms. You know, divorce is often seen as a failure. I disagree. I truly believe that it is an opportunity for growth and empowerment.
See, one of the things that a lot of these women should never have done, and that was get married. Okay, they married a man that they said they loved. They set themselves up for the long haul with this person. They were never going to be able to do it. And now they're idolizing and enthroning divorce.
Empowerment. Every failed relationship is a lesson in knowing your worth, setting your boundaries, and knowing what you truly deserve.
At the expense of who? Usually it's at the expense of the bloke they married.
Beauty beauty of learning from a past marriage is that it gives you clarity on what you will accept and what you will never tolerate again.
But shouldn't you already know what you're going to accept and what you're not going to tolerate without the expense of a lost marriage? This is the part that I don't understand about these modern women. And the next thing they know the person when they marry them. Or they should.
About walking into your next chapter with your eyes wide fucking open. Never settle. You know exactly what you're looking for. And now you have the strength to find it.
See, this is all pride, ego, advice at the expense of the people that they've learnt their lessons from. Now, don't think they knew these lessons that they're talking about, which they've learned. They've learnt them at the expense of the people that they've been involved with. These women have trails of destruction behind them that they don't talk about. They only project onto the people they want to justify themselves against. That doesn't make everyone right, but a lot of this is projection. These people, these women, these lost AWOL women, apparently she's a coach, I don't know what of, are just projecting the mistakes they've made themselves and the fact that they've learnt at the expense of the people that they've been involved with. Okay, here's another one from this woman.
I heard someone explain it this way, and it is literal perfection. You don't want your relationship to have to compensate for everything that's missing.
Okay, so what she's saying is when she was married, this is what she did.
You want your relationship to add value to your life.
Okay, so when she got married, that's what she expected.
And so much of my life feeling like I needed the approval and the validation of others, feeling like if I wasn't in a relationship that meant that I wasn't lovable or enough. I was using relationships
that was nobody else's fault except themselves.
Compensate for the things that were missing. When you take the time to heal and you focus on yourself and you invest in yourself, that is how you're going to get yourself to the place where you feel whole, happy, fulfilled, enough, lovable, worthy. Then you won't choose the wrong partners for the wrong reasons. Your standards will be high.
Now, when she just said you won't choose the wrong partner, it sounds to me like you won't be the wrong partner. A lot of these female coaches are representing men out to be absolute villains. But if you listen closely to what they say about what you need and what you should be, they've learned all these things at the expense of the person that they've been with. They haven't developed these things just by way of chance. They've developed them out of the conflicts which they've caused.
And you're going to get what you deserved and what you always wanted.
And that's both positive and negative, guys. That's both from a positive and negative perspective. Okay, so we'll finish off with this one. Same woman, apparently a life coach. Listen very carefully and read the message underneath.
My first divorce, I made a huge mistake. And
so she's been divorced a couple of times. I think getting married was a huge mistake in the first place. She doesn't sound like she was mature enough or emotionally ever going to be able to cope. This comes at the expense of the person that she would have married.
It cost me. I didn't take the time
to... It didn't just cost her either. It cost the people that were involved in that as well, primarily the husband.
Heal or rebuild my self-esteem. All I could think about was I'm only getting older and now I have all of this baggage that nobody's going to want to deal with.
Okay, so now whose fault's that? That's her fault. Nobody else's. Hers. But the cost of this way of thinking is going to come at the people she gets involved with. All right? It's not... See... She could be meeting great people. She says that in the first video. It's not because you've met a bad person. What I'm learning more from this woman is she just was not mentally or emotionally mature enough to deal with the relationship she put herself in or she was trusted with. Okay, so they can dance around TikTok and all this social media and spruce themselves up and, you know, look exteriorly well, but on the interior, any maturity and most of the maturity that these people have found has come at everybody's expense that they've been intimately involved with. Okay?
That mindset led me down a path where my main focus was finding someone who would accept me. So without
Okay, so it was her mindset. This is where you got to listen, guys. All right? It was her own mindset that misled her. Not the person that she was with, not all this other exterior stuff. It was her own mindset. She's saying she was the problem.
giving myself a chance to heal or figure out what I wanted.
Okay, she didn't know how to manage herself. She didn't know what maturing and developing was all about. She's, getting involved with people, and she damn well shouldn't have been.
Back into the dating scene and ended up marrying the first person I went on a date with. You can probably guess how that turned out. I do not want you making the same mistake that I did. Take the time to focus on your healing and find your own
happiness. Okay, so let me just make this clear, viewers. The person that she met wasn't the mistake. She was, because she wasn't mentally or emotionally at the point where she should have been doing that. She's saying she was underdeveloped. She was underprepared. She was not mature enough to be in a proper marriage or relationship, right? Now you think of the trail of destruction she's left behind her, probably with genuine people. She says this in one of her videos, they were good people. She was the problem, she's admitting it. And not only that, she's thrown all these other women that have this mindset under the bus with her.
Happiness and your fulfillment before seeking it in someone else. Trust me, I know it might
Okay, what she's basically saying is learn how to be mature, learn how to be able to cope in a relationship in a way in which you're going to be an asset. She's basically saying she wasn't an asset. She wasn't able to function in a relationship. It's not the people's fault that she was with, unless they've done something legitimately harmfully wrong. But I haven't heard that from this person. All I've heard is that she needed to be more of a woman, and she wasn't. Physically, yes. But on the inside, no.
Scary, but it's so fucking worth it. Give yourself the gift of time and the opportunity to grow into the best version of yourself.
Okay, so, this amazes me with men and women. Shouldn't you have done that by the time you were 18? Shouldn't you? That's when you're supposed to be an adult, ready to go out into the world and succeed. But we're talking about people that are 30, 40, 50, 60 that are still completely, totally unaware of what interrelationship skills development really is. Okay. Of course, you're going to learn lessons on the way, and people are going to get harmed and maimed by us as we develop. I'm not saying I'm innocent of any of this, but shouldn't women know this before they get married? Because it comes at the expense of the people that they involve themselves with.
Deserve that, and your future self will thank you. And I know that that's not always easy.
Hang on a sec. She says you deserve it. That's only half of what she should have said. The other half is, so do the people that you get involved with. Because it's no point you going in as half ready and then wrecking it all up and then having, another great mess and trail of destruction on your resume, right? Not only do these people deserve it themselves, it's something they should have done long before these coaches pop up and give this kind of advice. This is, a lot of people are so under-matured.
If you're a mom, you've probably been pouring all of your energy into your kids. I'm sure you believe.
I don't believe that to some extent, yes. But if you're a mum, how did you get yourself in the position of being a mum? What was so good about the man that gave you those children who all of a sudden isn't all that good anymore? In fact, the opposite. They get portrayed as being the devil and this, that and the other. Only because these women weren't, as she admitted it, wasn't mature enough to have been in that situation. You see, so these people grow at the expense of the people that they get involved with, be it by conscience, be it by confrontation. These people cause a lot of trouble, a lot of terrible trouble, and then say that the man was yelling at her. When somebody drives you to the point where that's happening, it's easy to blame the other person, but like she said, she was underdeveloped. She's brought children into the world, she's gone and got married, she's broken the family, if that be the case, for her own reasons. She talks about leaving people even though they're good, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Believe that that's the right thing to do and that that's what they need. But neglecting your own needs is actually doing your kids a disservice. If you don't prioritize yourself, it's going to be almost impossible to heal. Focusing on yourself is not only vital for your own happiness and health, you'll also be modeling resilience and healthy coping mechanisms for your kids.
This is all information that is usually way too late for most of these people. They've usually made their contribution to sociological mess and pushed up the divorce numbers to where they shouldn't be. You got to remember, these are grown women teaching infantile parental principles. It's really sad to think that our societies, Western society, has got this to where it is. They're all out there single and raving on about it, living with lizards and cats and reptiles and all other silly pets and things to try and prove to themselves that they're okay. And then you get these women that have made a complete and utter mess of the trust and the loyalty that was offered to them. And they're out giving advice, and it's selfish advice. Okay? These people didn't like being put in check. They didn't want to grow with the person that they were with. They chose to abandon and ruin and destroy the marriage that they had, and at the expense of their children as well. And then they go and get pumped and dumped and chase after the Chad and Tyrone and all the rest of it, and think they got the right to give people advice. One thing is, come on, show us a bit of wisdom. They're like children teaching children. And I'm going to caution you guys and girls to be very careful about who you mix with, because the trail of destruction is getting bigger and bigger, and Western society is starting to cave in on itself.